Okay, so hello again. And yeah, I want to talk a little bit about receptive mindfulness in relation to letting go and letting be. Um, and there perhaps a difference between those two. You might use one more than the other. We'll just explore them both briefly. Um, yeah, I got the idea from I knew that yesterday I was going to be at Carmela Sheila's memorial in North London, along with a couple of others here this morning. We were going to be acknowledging a very well-lived life and a very well-loved figure in the order, and a lover of meditation, uh, with a very strong desire for insight. And I was reminded again of his request when he was first diagnosed with his terminal illness, that we honor, if you like, if we express whatever feelings we had towards him through just practicing, just getting on with our practice. And there's still loss, of course. There's still that feeling of loss. Um, I was thinking of death, if you like, as the ultimate letting go practice. But dying actually seemed to be more to me about letting things be. That this is what's happening. I can't control what's happening in this process that's taken over the body, perhaps the mind in a lot of cases. So in receptive mindfulness, I think there's more emphasis generally on the letting be aspect of practice. Letting go happens. But I'd like to make a distinction between trying to let go. The idea that it's possible to let go by personal effort or sort of personal will, which I think can create some tension in the mind when we try and let go. But I think it's actually the wisdom mind that lets go. Through a clear and compassionate seeing. When something is seen, then there's a release. So in that way, I think there's not very much difference between letting be and letting go. And in fact, I think letting go often happens through letting be, letting things be as they are, being willing to just be with them as they are, even if it's a bit messy. There are unwanted things, you'd rather other things were happening in your experience, or if things are a bit unclear, a bit confused. If we can simply be with that with awareness, then we're letting be in yeah, a very deep sense. We're not interfering with what's happening. That's the language I often use. And we don't have an agenda about what should be happening. So in the practice, but one thing you can do, and I'll try and mention it, is can you connect with the feeling or the experience of either letting go or letting be, or both, and what can you feel any difference between the two? You get a sense of that. Moments when letting be is happening, or letting go. Sometimes another way that I think letting be and letting go, well, both of them happen, or there's a happening in that area, is when we remember awareness, and particularly when we remember to settle back into awareness or rest back, or remembering relaxation. So there's a relaxing back. And I think once you've done that a few times, I think it can become really quite natural. There isn't a conscious intention, if you like, to settle back or to relax into awareness. It's like it becomes something that the body and mind know how to do. And that just a very sort of subtle mind remembering of that will allow it to happen. So in that sense, it can feel more like letting be than letting go, though it's a letting go that happens. So that intention to be aware, I think, can really, really help. This is when we've set the intention to be aware at the beginning of a practice, then the mind is a little bit more likely to remember awareness, and from that, let go, let be. I was thinking in this regard too of a line by Jack Cornfield that I use on most retreats I teach. He says, where does he say, let go of the story, come back to the feeling or the experience. Let go of the story. So there's letting go in there. I think what actually happens is that we change the focus in that. Rather than the focus being on the content of our story, it's like we switch to a more direct experience in the body, often of how the body feels, what's being felt. And we're changing that so as not to be lost in this idea of strong storytelling or thinking. So I think letting go or letting be are both a kind of loss, if you like. Letting go of a particular agenda or a forward motion into the next moment rather than just being with what's happening right now. I think there can also be a loss of the story of me, the continuity of who I am through these stories, the continuity of who I am through time, but actually releasing that sort of hold on a linear, a linear sense of that gives us that sense of who I am and that I'm me. So just relaxing again and again, present moment awareness. The continuity doesn't disappear, that continuity of a sense of me, but it's different. There's a different sense of, there's a less belief in that what that continuity of moments means, that it means something about me. So I think letting go, certainly letting be this preparation for death, but also in awareness of them is life lived, I think, at its most sort of sweetest, actually, when we're really present to what's happening. And it's a sweetness, I think, of the gift that life is. And it helps us to just really appreciate that, even if what's happening is unpleasant or uncomfortable. Being aware of what's happening can help us connect with that it has its own preciousness, this moment.